It's my fight prediction for William Scull versus Vladimir Shishkin. It's gonna be a very, very good fight because this is an IBF title fight. This is the belt. This is a fight for the belt that Canelo lost, that was vacated recently, that was taken away from him because of the mandatory of William Scull. And now William Scull and Vladimir Shishkin will be fighting. It's gonna be a very good fight. It's gonna be an interesting fight. Something I was expecting. I thought it would take longer to put together, but the year's been moving fast, and October's right around the corner, so it kind of came fast, even though it seemed like it was far away. But this is gonna be a very interesting fight, man. They have a lot of good matchups on this card. This will be in Germany. This is not gonna be in the country of William Scull or Vladimir Shishkin, with him reigning from Russia and Scull being from Cuba. But this will be a tough fight, though. It's going to be an interesting fight. But with William Scull, he has that Cuban style, throws a good jab, kind of reminds you a little bit of how, not talent-wise, but movement-wise, reminds you of how Laura moves as far as how he stands and sits, and how he throws the left hook and his jabs. Even a little bit how he throws the right hand, not really. It's kind of completely different from William Scull. Kind of loops it a little bit. It's not straight like Laura throws his almost. But he's a decent fighter. The competition hasn't been very high for him. He fights to the level of his competition, but at the same time, he fights tough fights anyways. As far as the way he fights, he doesn't really try to go in and switch things up. He's kind of just, I would say, disciplined. As far as he just stays in front of the fundamentals and don't really get outside of that. Doesn't try to brawl with everyone. He's very cautious, patient in the ring. He's not trying to go out and throw 100 punches every round. He's just trying to outland guys, be accurate, trying to be on the outside, not really an inside fighter. He will come forward, but he's not like a pressure fighter. He's not going to try to pressure you, but he can. And if it gets to a point in the fight where he needs to, that will be a strategy of him. I think that more so he's going to be able to put some combinations together. I think him and Shishkin are close to the same talent level. I think Shishkin will be able to handle his right hand, but at the same time, I think Scull is a lot more cautious as far as and fundamental. He's fundamentally sound. Doesn't put himself in positions where he can get caught as much as I've seen with Shishkin. But Shishkin, he's usually outlanding or winning exchanges before he gets caught most of the time. So usually he's in the pocket for way too long. So that's sometimes leads to him getting caught. But he's a similar fighter to what Scull is. I would say he's like a level or two below like a Caleb Plant, but he kind of fights like Caleb Plant. The way he puts his combinations together, that would actually be a good fight between Shishkin and Caleb Plant. That actually would be, now that I think about it. And I'll think about something like that later on. But yeah, that would be a good fight. But with Shishkin, he fights similar to what Caleb Plant does. The way he moves around, and he's not really as athletic or agile. His agility is not like that. It's not that fast. But he does have some kind of fundamentals where he does focus on a lot of defense, tries to slip punches, has a decent jab, throws some decent combinations, doesn't try to do too much as far as outside or inside. He'll just kind of mix it up. He doesn't want to just overpower guys on the outside or throw a lot of punches for no reason. But Shishkin's a very good fighter, though. He puts it together. He doesn't really try to wait around and wait to counter punch. He will step forward and try to be first, but he can counterpunch. These guys are very patient fighters. They don't really try to go out and take too many risks. So it will be a slow-paced fight. It will pick up at times, but it's not going to be as competitive in the beginning as a lot of people would expect. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight, though. It's going to be very tough to score. Um, these guys have to throw a lot more punches than they have in the past, just to make sure that, because it's a championship fight, they're going to try to have a clear-cut winner in this. And with the way that they fought in the past, they got to make sure that they show these judges that they're winning these rounds. I think the guy who's going to be out jabbing, throwing the combinations, more so than just pressuring. I mean, it's going to be some pressuring going on in the fight, but the person who's throwing the combinations, going to the body, jabbing a lot more, I know people will say, yeah, that's obvious that person will win, but I'm talking about it could be a guy who just throws single shots most of the fight and outlands instead of the guy who's trying to mix it up. But I think the guy who mixes it up in this fight will put a lot more damage on the person in the ring. And I think Shishkin will be able to do that just because Scull, he's going to try to stay disciplined throughout the fight. It's not going to put itself in certain positions, but I think Shishkin's going to take a lot of risk. And Scull got to make sure that he's landing certain punches and exposing his power to the point where Shishkin won't be able to try to take that risk throughout the whole fight. But it's going to be a tough fight, though. I think it's going to be a decision. And I think that Vladimir Shishkin will be able to take this fight. Just the fact that he can put punches together and not really try to worry about a strategy. It's kind of going to be more of a natural flow to him. I think he will get probably out-jabbed a lot in certain rounds, but he'll be able to put together rounds to where it's obvious that he's a clear-cut winner. I think that Scull will have it too close on the scorecards in certain rounds to where it won't be clear-cut that he won those rounds, even though he will have bright spots in the fight where it shows that in 30 seconds he had a huge burst, possibly hurt Shishkin in the round, but I think Shishkin will be able to put a lot more damage on throughout each round, and it'll be a lot more obvious that he's a clear-cut guy who's winning the rounds, most of the rounds. I think so. It's going to be a close fight, though. Kind of hard to judge this fight. Could go either way, to be honest with you. So if you think Scull is a winner, good possibility. It's a very close fight. Both of these guys, they've been tested, but still hard to kind of judge at certain points.